Hello everyone, this is Lalita ma'am and welcome to my channel Mantram. So uh, today we are going to study about chapter cell, its structure and function. Okay, so this video is for 8th standard, but you can also use it, even 9th standard students can also use it, okay, for some topics. Now, before we start this cell, what is cell and what is the structure of cell, let us try to understand this concept with one analogy. Okay, now what is that analogy? Suppose when you go to a construction site, like, okay, so you observe different people working for constructing a building and the different materials they use for constructing the building. So you might have seen bricks are the basic building blocks, isn't it? So these bricks are used for the construction purpose. So as we know, like what are the basic building blocks, and these bricks are the building blocks for making a building. In the same way, cells are used to construct the body of living organism, we can say. So uh, all the living organisms, they are made up of the small unit present in them, and that small unit is nothing but the cell. So what is cell? Cell is nothing but the building block of living organisms. Okay, so all the living organisms are made up of the building blocks. Now in this image, you can observe, you might have played with these building blocks when you were small, isn't it? So these when you keep on fixing these blocks one over the other, when you arrange these blocks one above the other, they form the one particular structure. Okay, so this structure is maybe your these blocks. So when you separate these building blocks, you might have seen these building blocks existing in different pieces. So when you join these pieces, okay, one above the other like this, so they are given a shape, they give a shape and they form a shape like this. So this is the function of the cell. So as you can see in this blocks, different blocks are used to make this, construct this house or this house or this structure. So in the same way, these cells, they are responsible for making the structure of living organisms. Okay, so as they are responsible for making the structure of living organisms, it is known as the basic structural and functional unit. Now let us understand why it is known as basic structural unit of life. So as individual cells, they are responsible for giving the structure to the organism. Like here, it is giving the structure to this house. So in the same way, give cells give structure to the living organism. Okay, now if you talk about ant, or if you take example of element, all the organisms, even that organism are smallest organism or the big organisms, all these organisms are made up of cells, and these cells are responsible for giving the proper structure to any organism. Now that's why it is known as structural unit. Now why it is known as the functional unit? It is known as the functional unit of life because cells, they perform different functions. Now what are the different functions that are carried out in our body, like respiration, ingestion, digestion, absorption? Like if you consider human body, circulation, digestion, and there are different systems. Okay, so all these systems, they work, or they function because of cells. So there are different cells for performing different functions of life. That is why it is known as functional unit of life. Okay, so cell is nothing but the building block of living organisms, And cells are responsible for performing different functions in the living organism, and they are also responsible for giving structure to the living organisms. Okay, fine. Now, uh, these cells, do all these cells are same in size? Do they have variation? Like if you look at your body, like your skin, your body is made up of different organs, and all these organs are made up of different cells. Okay, so these cells, they have variation. Suppose on our body we have hairs, we have skin, we have different organs, muscles, everything. Okay, different organs we have in our body, present inside our body or present outside our body. So all these cells, they are the cells that form a particular organ, they are not same. All the cells are of different shape, different size, and they have different structure depending upon what function they perform. Okay, so similarly, we can say that like if you take example of ant. So as ant is of small size, so it will have less number of cells. And as elephant, it is big in size, it has more cells. So depending upon the structure, the organism which is bigger or longer or thicker, we can say, or broader, so that object will have more number of cells in it. And the object sorry, organisms, so those organisms will have more cells, and the organisms that are small in size, they have less number of cells. But so we can say that cells, they vary in number, they have variation in the number. Now, do they vary in their shape? Yes, they do. If you take example of skin cell, okay. So as our skin is flat, okay. So and it covers large area. So skin cells are flat in shape. And if you take example of nerve cells, so nerves, their function is to carry the signals from one part of the body to the other part. So they are elongated in shape. So they are elongated in shape. So that is why we can say that these cells, they vary in their shape, and definitely they vary in their size also, depending upon the location where they exist. They vary in size as well. Okay, so cells, all the cells, they are not of a same shape, they are not of same size, but they vary in the number, they vary in the shape, they vary in the size. So variation in cells exists in their number, shape, as well as size. Okay. Now, what are the, depending upon whether the organisms have like how many number of cells they have, whether they have more number of cells or they have less number of cells, depending upon that, they are classified as or how they are. So depending upon that, they are also classified into unicellular or multicellular organisms. So let us discuss how the number of cells vary, and on the basis of variation in the number of cells, how or what are these referred to as. Okay, now you as you can see here, you have examples of like amoeba, paramecium, and euglena. Okay, so these organisms, these are the living organisms whose body consists of only one cell. So the living organisms, or the organisms whose body consists of only one cell in them, those organisms are known as unicellular organisms. Okay, uni means single. So the organisms that are made up of single cell or only one cell, those organisms are known as unicellular organisms. So examples are amoeba, euglena, paramecium. So these are the examples of unicellular organisms. Now, what does it mean? Like if an organism has only one cell, does it mean that that organism will not breathe, or how will it carry out different functions? Like even amoeba also consumes food. The food is digested. They also respire. So they perform specific functions which is necessary to live a healthy life. Okay, so all the functions in unicellular organisms, they are carried out by single cell. As they have only one cell, so all these necessary functions are carried out by the single cell. And that single cell only performs several functions. We can say that this single cell is multitasking, isn't it? So because it performs all the tasks alone, so this single cell is multitasking. So we can say that it performs all the functions alone, or it can handle all the functions alone. Okay. Now, similarly, there are some organisms which are made up of more than one cells. Okay. So the organisms that are made up of only one cell, they are known as unicellular organisms. Similarly, the organisms that are made up of more than one cell, we call those organisms as multicellular organisms. Okay. So, multicellular organisms. Now, what are these multicellular organisms? Multicellular organisms means many. Multi means many. So, the organisms that are made up of many cells, they are known as multicellular organisms. So these organisms are the like we human beings, we human beings, different animals, plants, they all are made up of more than one cell. Okay, that is why we all are multicellular organisms. So organisms whose body consists of many cells, this is important. Many cells, they are known as multicellular organisms. Now, in what happens in multicellular organisms? So all the similar types of cells, all the cells that are of same type, or they are grouped together to perform a specific function. Suppose all the cells, those who are involved in respiration, they perform a special function of respiration, we can say. So there are different cells, and these different cells carry out different function. So like unlike in unicellular organisms, there only one cell performs all the function, but here different cells perform different functions. Okay, so as it has many cells available, so they perform different functions. Now, what are the examples? So most plants and human beings, they are multicellular organisms. Here you can see this example of multicellular organisms. Okay, now, so what are multicellular organisms? The organisms that are made up of more than one cell, or that are made up of many cells, they are known as multicellular organisms. Now, variation in shape, as we have discussed before, that cells, they vary in their shape. So as the cells vary in their shape, so all the cells, they are not of same shape. If you take example of this, okay, or like nerve cell, then skin cell. So then this is, this is nerve cell, skin cell, muscle cell. So this is muscle cell, striated muscles. So all these types, so these are the different types of cell. So they are of different shape depending upon the function what they perform and the location where they exist. So different cells carry different function, and they exist in different shape depending upon what function they perform. Now, the different shapes can be disc shape, like the shape of a disc. Okay, it can be polygonal. Okay, it can be rectangular, like in the form of rectangle, or it can be branched, like here it has different branches, isn't it? So it can have various branches. Then, or it can be irregular in shape. Okay, now its shape depends upon specific function it performs. So depending upon what function it performs, its shape is like that. So example is muscle cell, nerve cell, skin cell. Okay, so these are the muscle cells and these are the nerve cell and this is the skin cell. So you can see they all are of different shape depending upon what function they perform. Okay, so depending upon the function they perform, cells also vary in the shape. Now this is also the example of muscle cell. You can see here, this is the image which shows you the muscle cell. Okay, so this is straighted, they are elongated in shape. So they are thin and long. And why they are thin and long? Because their function is to help in the movement with through contraction and expansion. Like when you move your hands, okay, so your hands contract and relax. So depending upon that, their shape is according to the function that it performs. Similarly, we have other types of cell as well. The next one is nerve cell. Now look at this nerve cell. Okay, now this nerve cell, it has the function of carrying the messages. It carries the messages from between the different parts of the body. Sorry, this is wrong. Okay, it carries the messages between the different parts of the body to the brain. So from brain to the from brain to different parts, and from different parts to the brain. So this is the function of this nerve cell. That is why its shape is elongated. Yes, its shape is elongated. It is elongated in shape because of its function. So this is the nucleus. As you know, cell has a nucleus. So this is the nucleus of the cell and this is the cell body and this is known as axon. Okay, and this covering is myelin sheath and it also has some branches over here. These branches are used for the connection and these connections or these branches are known as dendrite. Okay, so this is the function of nerve cell. So how is the nerve cell? Nerve cell is elongated in shape because its function is to carry the messages from the brain to the different parts and different parts to the brain. Now, the next one is skin cell. Okay, so the skin cell, as you can see, it is like polygonal in shape. Yes, it is polygon. Like, what do you mean by polygon? When polygon means a closed figure that has more than two sides. Okay, so this is polygonal in shape. So what does it have at the center? This is the nucleus of the cell. Now nucleus contains all the necessary information. So these dot-like structures are the nucleus. And you can see as the skin covers the large area of our body, that is why they are flat and broad in shape. And they are arranged in the form of polygonal shape. Okay, in a irregular manner. Okay, now after that, as we have seen till now, that cells vary in the shape cells also vary in their function. Now, not only that, but cells vary in their size as well. Now, look at this figure. Okay, so here you are able to see two different types of cells. Okay, now the cell size of the cell may be microscopic, like very small size, or it may be macroscopic, like large size. So if the cells are macroscopic means large size, and the cells may be microscopic, that is small size. So these are the microscopic cells. Okay, microscopic, very small size. We cannot see them through naked eyes. And these are macroscopic. Okay, we can see them through naked eyes. So the smallest cells, these are the bacteria, cells of the bacteria. Okay, and this is the largest cell, that is of ostrich egg. Okay, so the size of the ostrich egg is 170 millimeter in diameter. So that much big. It's then 17 centimeter. Yes, so 170 millimeters means 17 centimeter in diameter. So that is the diameter of ostrich egg. Okay, and when you talk about the longest cell, if you consider the length, so the nerve cells, which we have already discussed before, these nerve cells, they are the longest cells in the human body. Okay, now uh, all these cells, they have different constituents present in them. They have nucleus. So the nucleus of all the cells are not well defined. Okay, so the depending upon whether the nucleus is well defined or not, they are categorized as prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Now, what do you mean by prokaryotic cells? Pro means primitive. Primitive means we can say primary. Okay, primary. And karyon means nucleus. Primary nucleus. Primary means in the initial stage, when the nucleus is in the initial stage, or we can say that the nucleus is not well defined. Okay, so it is floating somewhere in the cytoplasm, we can say. So such type of cells are known as prokaryotic cells. So the cells of organisms which lack a well-defined nucleus. So the nucleus which are in the primitive stage or the primary stage, they are known as prokaryotic cells, and the organisms that are made up of these prokaryotic cells, they are known as uh, prokaryotes. Those organisms are known as prokaryotes. And the cells of such organisms that do not have a well-defined nucleus, their nucleus is not properly well defined, surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Like how this, if this is the nucleus, this covering is known as nuclear membrane. So if cell doesn't have a nuclear membrane, if it doesn't have a well-defined nuclear membrane, so such cells are known as prokaryotic cells or primitive cells. Okay, and the organisms which are made up of such prokaryotic cells, they are known as prokaryotes. Now, example of these prokaryotes, okay, are, we have seen here, this algae, blue-green algae is example of blue-green algae, and bacteria. These are the examples of prokaryotic cells. Now, eukaryotic cells. In case of eukaryotic cells, U means true. True means real or actual. So real or actual nucleus. And karyon means nucleus, as we have already discussed before. So eukaryotic cells means the organisms that have true nucleus, or we can say that well-defined nucleus. So if the organisms have well-defined nucleus, then they are known as the eukaryotic or eukaryotes. Okay, and the cells which have a well-defined nucleus, those cells are known as eukaryotic cells. And those organisms are known as eukaryotes. Now, what are those eukaryotic cells or eukaryotes? All the organisms except bacteria and blue green algae. As we have discussed before, prokaryotic organisms or prokaryotes are bacteria and blue green algae. So except these two, all the others are eukaryotes. Okay, so this is the diagram where you can see this is the nucleus. Okay, it has a well defined nucleus, it has different structures. So these are the different structures of or all organelles of cell. We are going to discuss about these organelles in the next video. Okay, so what we have discussed till now is that the organisms are made up of, all the living organisms are made up of cells, and the cell is the basic structural and functional unit of any organism. So why cell is the structural unit? Because cells give the structure to any organism, and cell is known as functional unit because different cells, they perform different functions in the body. Then all these cells, they are not similar in all the organisms. They vary in the shape, they vary in the structure, they vary in the number, they vary in the size. So depending upon what function they perform and where they are located. So depending upon how many like whether the organism is made up of one cell or more number of cells, they are classified as unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms are the organisms that are made up of only one single cell, and multicellular organisms are the organisms that are made up of more than one cell. Okay, and these unicellular or in unicellular organism, only one cell performs all the functions, necessary functions required to be performed by the cell. And multicellular organisms, in that many cells are grouped together to perform a special task or a specific function. Then depending upon the structure of the nucleus, whether the nucleus is well defined or not, they are also classified as prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells means the cells that do not have well defined nucleus, they are known as prokaryotic cells. And the organisms that are made up of such prokaryotic cells, they are known as prokaryotes. And eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, the organisms that have a well defined nucleus and that are made up of eukaryotic cells, they are known as eukaryotes. So I hope this is clear to you. So I'll come up with the next video very soon for the next part of covering this lesson. Until then, bye bye, take care, and please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel to get updated with the latest videos. Okay. So until then, bye bye. Have a nice day.